The morning alarm echoed through Outpost Epsilon 7 like it had every day for the past 3 years. Commander Park Daeho rubbed his tired eyes and looked out the thick window of his quarters. Nothing but empty space stared back at him. No stars, no planets. Just the endless dark that surrounded their station like a hungry mouth. He dressed quickly in his gray uniform and walked through the long corridors toward the command center. The walls here were different from other space stations. They were thicker, much thicker, and they hummed with a strange energy that made his teeth ache if he listened too carefully. Other crew members nodded to him as he passed. They all had the same look in their eyes, the look of people who knew something terrible but could never talk about it. The look of people who had seen things that normal humans should never see. Dr. Lee So-min was already waiting in the command center when he arrived. She stood in front of a wall of screens showing numbers and graphs that changed every second. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her hands shook just a little as she held her coffee cup. "Good morning, Commander," she said without turning around. Her voice was steady, but Park could hear the worry underneath. "Morning, So-min. What do we have today?" She turned to face him, and he saw the dark circles under her eyes. None of them slept well anymore. Not since they started working here. "Sector 12 is showing unusual activity," she said, pointing to one of the screens. "The readings are different from yesterday. Something down there is stirring." Park felt his stomach tighten. He had hoped they would have more time before something like this happened. But hope was a dangerous thing out here at the edge of everything. Captain Kim Tae-won entered the command center, his boots making sharp sounds on the metal floor. He was younger than the others, only 31, but his eyes looked much older. All their eyes did. "Sir, we have incoming ships," Tae-won reported. 3 vessels from the Ethereal Collective. "They're keeping their distance, but they're definitely scanning us." "How close?" Park asked. 10 million kilometers. "They won't come any closer." "They never do," Park nodded. The aliens were smart to stay away. They had learned long ago that some places in the galaxy were better left alone. But they were also curious. And curiosity could be dangerous. Engineer Choi Min-ae burst through the door, her work clothes covered in grease and her face red from running. "Commander, the containment fields in Sector 12 are fluctuating. Whatever Dr. Lee detected, it's affecting the whole system." Park closed his eyes for a moment. This was what he had been afraid of. The things they kept locked away down in the lower levels were not ordinary dangers. They were not pirates or hostile aliens or broken machines. They were something much worse. Something that could break reality itself if it ever got free. "Show me the readings," he said. Min-ae pulled up new screens filled with numbers that made no sense to normal people. But Park had learned to read them over the years. He had learned many things he wished he could forget. "The energy levels are climbing," Min-ae explained. "If this continues, we might have a containment failure in Sector 12 within the next 6 hours. Dr. Lee moved closer to the screens. "It's not random," she said quietly. "The patterns match the alien scanning frequencies. Their curiosity is waking it up." Park felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. The aliens did not know what they were doing. They could not know. Humans had made sure of that for over 200 years. "Sir," Tae-won said, "the collective ships are requesting communication. They want to know what we're doing out here." "Standard response," Park ordered. "Tell them this is a human research station studying dead star systems." "Nothing more. They're not buying it, sir. Their lead scientist is asking about the energy readings they're detecting. They say the signatures are impossible according to their physics." Park walked to the main window and stared out at the darkness. Somewhere out there, 3 ships full of curious aliens were trying to understand what humans were really doing at the edge of known space. They had no idea that humans were protecting them, protecting everyone. "Commander," So-min said softly, "we need to make a decision. If the containment fails while they're here, they'll see things that will drive their entire crew insane." Or worse, Park had seen worse. They all had. In the early days of human expansion into deep space, before the containment protocols, whole research teams had been lost to the things that lived in the dark between stars. Scientists who had gone looking for new worlds had found something else instead. Something hungry and patient and completely alien to normal reality. The first expedition to return had brought back only 3 survivors out of 50 crew members. Those 3 survivors had spent the rest of their short lives in psychiatric facilities, screaming about things that ate light and sang songs that unraveled the fabric of space itself. But humans had not run away. Instead, they had learned. They had built better ships and stronger mines and containment systems that could hold things that should not exist. They had become guardians of secrets that could destroy civilizations. The aliens don't understand, Minay said. They think space is safe. They think the universe makes sense. Maybe that's better, Taewon suggested. Maybe some things are better left unknown. Park thought about the thousands of humans working at stations like this one all along the galaxy's edge. Men and women who had volunteered to spend their lives keeping terrible secrets. People who would never be honored or remembered because their success meant no one would ever know what they had prevented. He made his decision. Taewon, open a channel to the lead collective ship. Encrypted maximum security. Sir? Taewon looked surprised. They need to know something. Not everything, but something. Commander, that's against all protocols, So-min warned. The protocols were written when containment was stable, when we could keep our secrets safely locked away. But if Sector 12 fails while they're watching, they'll learn our secrets anyway, and they won't be prepared for what they see. Park sat down at the communication console and began typing. His message was short but heavy with meaning. To the ethereal collective research vessel, you are detecting energy signatures from phenomena that exist outside normal space-time. These are not weapons or experiments. They are contained threats that could endanger all sapient life in this galaxy. We are not researchers. We are guardians. Some doors should never be opened. We keep them closed so you can sleep peacefully. Please maintain your distance for your own safety and the safety of your crews. Commander Park Dae-ho, Human Containment Division. He sent the message and leaned back in his chair. Sir, you just changed everything, Taewon said quietly. Park nodded. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time someone else knew why humans really came to the edge of the galaxy. On the screens around them, the readings from Sector 12 continued to climb. Something down in the dark was stirring, awakened by alien curiosity and the approach of minds that had never learned to fear the spaces between stars. Park looked at his crew. Good people. Brave people. People who had chosen to stand guard against nightmares so that others could live in peace. Whatever happens next, he said, we do our job. We keep the doors closed. The station hummed around them, its thick walls holding back secrets that could remake the galaxy in shapes too horrible to imagine. The emergency transport ship arrived 12 hours after Park sent his message to the collective. Ambassador Yoon Jae-sung stepped off the ship with anger written across his face and fury in his voice. What have you done? He demanded as soon as he saw Park in the docking bay. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you've caused? Park stood straight and calm. I did what was necessary. Necessary? Yoon's voice echoed off the metal walls. Earth Command is going crazy. The collective has been sending messages nonstop asking questions we can't answer. 3 more alien fleets are heading this way to investigate. Dr. Lee So-min appeared beside them, her face pale. Ambassador, we need to talk, all of us. Right now. Yoon looked between Park and So-min. Something in their expressions made his anger fade into concern. What's happening here? Come with us, Park said. It's time you saw what we really do. They walked through the station corridors, past the normal crew areas and workspaces, until they reached a heavy door marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. So-min pressed her hand against a scanner and the door opened with a sound like grinding metal. Beyond the door was an elevator that went down, much further down than should have been possible on a space station. How deep does this go? Yoon asked as the elevator descended. Deep enough, So-min replied. The station you see above is just the tip. Most of our facility extends into folded space, dimensions that exist but don't follow normal rules. The elevator stopped, and they stepped out into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever in both directions. The walls here were not made of normal metal. They were black and smooth and seemed to drink in light. Emergency lighting cast red shadows that moved strangely. Ambassador, Park said as they walked, what do you know about the early human expansion into deep space? The basic history. We explored, we found suitable worlds, we built colonies. That's what the public knows. But there's more. When we reached the edge of the galaxy, we found things. Things that should not exist. They stopped at a massive window made of materials that did not have names. Through the transparent wall, Yoon could see into a chamber the size of a city block. At first, the chamber seemed empty. Then his eyes adjusted to the darkness inside. Something moved in there. Something that was not quite solid and not quite energy. It flowed like water but burned like fire. As Yoon watched, it changed shape, becoming geometries that made his head hurt to perceive. What is that? he whispered. We call it a void feeder, Somin explained. It exists partially outside our reality. It feeds on the spaces between atoms, on the nothing that holds everything together. If it ever got free, it would consume light itself. Stars would go dark, gravity would fail. The basic laws of physics would unravel. Yoon stepped back from the window. How many of these things do you have? Here, 17 different entities. Across all human edge stations, over 300. They continued walking through the underground facility. Each window showed something worse than the last. In one chamber, Yoon saw crystals that sang with voices that made his bones ache. The sound was muffled by the containment walls, but he could still feel it trying to reach inside his mind. In another chamber, something that looked like a living shadow pressed itself against the glass. Where it touched, the transparent material became cloudy and started to crack. That one almost broke free last month, Engineer Choi Min-ae said as she joined their group. We had to flood the chamber with concentrated light to force it back. But the worst one is down here, Somin said, leading them to the deepest level. They stood before a chamber that was completely dark. No windows, no lights, no way to see inside. But somehow Yoon knew something was in there. Something that watched them even though it could not see. The whisper plague, Somin said quietly. It's not really alive, but it's not dead either. It's a kind of infection that spreads through thoughts and memories. Anyone who hears its whispers becomes a carrier, and carriers spread it to others just by talking. How do you contain something like that? Very carefully, Min-ae answered. The chamber is surrounded by psychic dampeners and reality anchors. We pump in white noise to drown out the whispers. And the people who work with it, they don't last long. Yoon felt sick. How long have humans been doing this? 237 years, Park replied. Ever since the first expedition found these things sleeping in dead star systems. We could have run away. We could have marked these areas as dangerous and forbidden other species from coming here. But you didn't. No, because these things don't stay asleep forever. They grow stronger. They spread. If we had left them alone, they would have eventually reached populated systems. Billions would have died. Civilizations would have fallen. They walked back toward the elevator in silence. Yoon's mind was trying to process what he had seen. Humanity had been fighting a secret war for over 2 centuries. A war against things that could destroy reality itself. The alien ships outside, Yoon said finally. They don't know about any of this? They know something is wrong with these regions of space, Somin explained. Their legends speak of places where ships disappear and stars go dark for no reason. But they think these are just natural phenomena. They don't realize that these things are actively hostile. And now they're getting curious. Their scanning is making the entities restless. As if to prove Park's point, the lights in the corridor flickered. Emergency alarms began to sound in the distance. Min-ae checked her portable scanner. Multiple containment fluctuations. The entities are responding to each other. When one gets agitated, it affects the others. They reached the surface level to find the command center in chaos. Crew members ran between stations, checking readings and adjusting controls. Captain Kim Tae-won met them as they entered. Sir, the situation is getting worse. The collective ships are moving closer. They're not listening to our warnings. And the containment fields in 3 different sectors are showing instability. How much time do we have? Park asked. At current rates of decay, maybe 72 hours before we have multiple breaches. Yoon stared at the screens showing energy readings that climbed higher every minute. What happens if the containment fails completely? Best case scenario? Somin said. The entities consume this entire star system and then go dormant again. Worst case, they use this system as a launching point to spread across the galaxy. And the alien ships will see it all happen. If they're lucky, they'll just go insane. If they're unlucky, they'll become carriers for the whisper plague. Yoon sat down heavily in a chair. His entire understanding of humanity's role in the galaxy had changed in the past hour. They were not explorers or researchers or traders. They were guardians, protectors. They stood watch against nightmares so that other species could live in ignorance and safety. Ambassador, Park said, Earth Command needs to know what we're facing, and the alien governments need to understand why we do this. They'll never believe it. Then we'll have to show them, because keeping these secrets might have protected the galaxy until now. But if the containment fails while the aliens are watching, those secrets won't matter anymore. Through the command center windows, Yoon could see the lights of the alien ships in the distance, curious scientists trying to understand energy readings that defied their physics. They had no idea they were poking at the locks on doors that should never be opened. "What do you need from me?" Yoon asked. "Time," Park replied, "and trust. We need the aliens to understand that we're not their enemies. We're the only thing standing between them and something that would make their worst nightmares look like pleasant dreams that your..." Alarms continued to sound as the containment systems struggled to hold back things that existence itself rejected. And somewhere in the dark between stars, ancient hunger stirred at the sound of curious minds drawing near. Park Dae-ho stood in the communications center, his hands hovering over the controls. Around him, his crew watched with worried faces. What he was about to do would change everything. There would be no going back. "Sir," Captain Kim Tae-won said quietly. "Are you sure about this?" Park nodded. "The containment is failing. If we don't tell them the truth now, they'll learn it in the worst possible way." He opened a direct channel to all 3 collective ships. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead alien vessel. The creature on screen had large silver eyes and skin that shimmered like water. Park had never spoken directly to a collective member before. "I am Commander Park Dae-ho of Human Outpost Epsilon 7, he began. "What I am about to tell you will sound impossible. But your lives and the lives of everyone in this galaxy depend on you believing me." The alien's eyes grew wider. "We are listening, Commander. 200 years ago, human explorers found things at the edge of the galaxy. Things that should not exist. We call them entities. They live partially outside normal space and time. They feed on reality itself." Park paused, watching the alien's face. He saw confusion, then disbelief, then something that might have been fear. These entities can break the laws of physics. They can drive entire species insane just by existing near them. They can consume stars and planets and leave nothing but hungry darkness behind. "Commander," the alien said, its voice shaking, "this sounds like the old stories. The myths our children tell to frighten each other." "Your myths are memories," Dr. Lee Soman said, stepping up beside Park. "Your species encountered these things long ago before you developed space travel. You forgot the details, but the fear remained." Ambassador Yoon Jae-sung moved to another console. "I'm transmitting our containment data to your ships. Look at the readings. Look at the energy signatures. These match your impossible detections because they really are impossible." The alien turned to speak with others on its bridge. Park could hear them talking in their musical language. Their voices sounded scared. After several minutes, the alien faced the screen again. "We have studied your data. Our scientists say these readings should not be possible. But they are real." "Yes," Park said. "And right now your scanning beams are making them restless. The entities are waking up. What do you want us to do?" "Work with us, help us. For 2 centuries, humans have been holding these things back alone. We've lost thousands of people. We've sacrificed entire generations to keep the galaxy safe." The alien was quiet for a long moment. Why would humans do this? Why not simply leave and warn others? Engineer Choi Min-ae stepped forward. "Because someone has to stand guard. Because these things don't stay contained forever. They grow stronger. They spread. If we abandon our posts, they will eventually reach your worlds." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Min-ae ran to her console, her face going pale as she read the displays. "Multiple breaches," she shouted. "Sectors 8, 12, and 15. The whisper plague containment is fluctuating." Park felt his heart sink. "How long do we have?" "The primary barriers are holding, but barely. Maybe 6 hours before total failure." Dr. Somin was already moving toward the exit. "I'm going down to the containment levels. We need to start emergency protocols." "Wait," the alien on the screen said. "Our quantum physicist wants to help. She says she might have ideas for stabilizing your containment fields." Somin stopped and stared at the screen. "You would do that? Even knowing what these things could do to your crew?" "We have legends of the hungry dark," the alien replied. "Stories of things that ate entire star clusters long ago. If these are the same things, then we all have a duty to keep them locked away." Park felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope. Taiwan, escort a team of alien scientists to the containment levels. "Full protective gear for everyone." "Sir, that's against every safety protocol we have. The protocols were written when we thought we could handle this alone. Things have changed." An hour later, Dr. Somin stood in the deep levels beside 2 collective scientists. One was tall and thin with 6 arms. The other was short and round with skin that changed colors as it thought. "Your containment theory is fascinating," the tall alien said, its voice muffled by the protective helmet it wore. "You use reality anchors to force normal physics to remain stable around the entities." "It works, but it's not perfect," So-Min explained. "The anchors require constant power and regular maintenance, and they put enormous stress on the people who operate them." The short alien's skin turned deep blue. "We have technology that might help. Quantum stabilizers that can spread the load across multiple points. Instead of one anchor bearing all the stress, we could create a network." "Show me," So-Min said. They worked together for hours, combining human experience with alien technology. The tall alien understood physics in ways that humans never could. The short one had ideas about energy distribution that seemed impossible, but somehow worked. Meanwhile, on the upper levels, Park was dealing with a new crisis. More crew members were showing signs of whisper plague infection. They spoke in languages that made listeners feel sick. They drew symbols that hurt to look at. And worst of all, they smiled with the kind of peace that came from understanding terrible truths. "We need to isolate them," Captain Taiwan said. "No," Park replied. "If we isolate infected crew members, we lose their expertise. We need everyone working if we're going to stop this." "But they're spreading the infection." "Not yet. The infection doesn't become contagious until the final stage. We have time." Ambassador Yoon was coordinating with Earth Command and the alien fleets. More ships were arriving every hour. Not just collective vessels, but representatives from the Crystal Hegemony and the Void Syndicate. Word was spreading throughout the galaxy that humans had been hiding something enormous. "The politicians want to know why we never told them," Yoon reported to Park. "They're angry about the secrecy." "Let them be angry," Park said. "Anger is better than the madness they would have experienced if they had known the truth too soon." Engineer Min Ai came running into the command center, her clothes torn and her face bleeding from a small cut. "The entities in Sector 12 are communicating with each other," she gasped. "They're not just random monsters. They're intelligent, and they're coordinating." Park felt ice in his veins. "What do you mean?" "I mean they're planning something. The energy fluctuations aren't random. They follow patterns, mathematical sequences. They're trying to break out together." On the screens around them, the containment readings continued to deteriorate. But now there was something else. The alien ships had moved closer and were contributing their own energy to the containment fields. Human technology and alien science working together for the first time in history. Dr. So-Min's voice came over the communication system. "Commander, we've had a breakthrough. The quantum stabilizer network is working. We're actually improving containment in Sector 15. What about the other sectors? We need more time, and more alien scientists. The collective team here is brilliant, but we need specialists from other species too." Park looked at the screen showing dozens of alien ships surrounding the station. Ships full of scientists and soldiers and diplomats who were finally learning the truth about humanity's role in the galaxy. "Yoon, send a message to all the fleets. Tell them we need their help, all of it. This isn't just a human problem anymore. What if they refuse?" Park thought about the infected crew members, about the entities growing stronger in their containment chambers, about the possibility of cosmic horrors spreading across the galaxy. "Then we all face the consequences together," he said. "But I think they'll help, because now they know what we've been protecting them from." As if to emphasize his words, a new alarm sounded. The whisper plague containment was failing faster than expected. They had maybe 3 hours before something that could infect entire civilizations broke free. But for the first time in over 2 centuries, humans were not facing the darkness alone. The station shook as if something enormous had struck it. But Park Dae-ho knew better. The impact came from inside, not outside. The entities were breaking free. "Report," he shouted over the screaming alarms. Engineer Choi Min-ae's hands flew over her controls, her face lit by red warning lights. "Sector 8 breach. The living shadow has escaped its primary containment. It's moving through the ventilation systems." Captain Kim Tae-won was already suiting up in protective gear. "I'll take a team down there." "No," Park said firmly. "Regular weapons won't work. You need specialized containment equipment." The lights went out completely for 3 seconds. When they came back on, half the screens in the command center were showing impossible images. Corridors that bent in directions that should not exist. Rooms where gravity flowed sideways. Crew members walking through walls as if they were made of air. The geometry of the station is changing, Dr. Lee So-min reported, her voice tight with fear. Reality is breaking down around the breach points. Ambassador Yoon Jae-sung was coordinating with the alien fleets, but his face showed the strain. The collective ships are detecting massive space-time distortions. They want to retreat to a safe distance. Tell them to stay, Park ordered. If they leave now, these things will follow them home eventually. On the main screen, the tall collective scientist appeared from the deep levels. Its 6 arms were moving frantically, operating equipment that looked like a cross between human technology and alien art. "Commander," it said, its voice crackling through interference. "The quantum stabilizer network is helping, but it's not enough. The entities are adapting. They're learning to work around our countermeasures. What do you need? More power, much more, and someone needs to coordinate the entire network manually. The automated systems can't handle the complexity." Dr. So-min understood first. Manual coordination means someone has to link their mind directly to the network. They would experience every moment of the entity's existence while keeping the containment stable. "The person would go insane," Minnie said quietly. "Not necessarily," the alien scientist replied, "but they would never be the same. They would carry the knowledge of these things forever." Park felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. He had made difficult decisions before, but nothing like this. Someone had to volunteer to become a living bridge between the containment system and the cosmic horrors it held back. "I'll do it," Minnie said immediately. "No." Park's voice was final. "I'm the commander. This is my responsibility. Sir, with respect, you're needed here to coordinate the overall response." "Let me—" "Nobody volunteers for this," Taewon interrupted. "We draw lots. It's the only fair way." "There's no time for fair," Park said as another section of the station shuddered under impossible stresses. Through the command center windows, he could see stars that had not been there before. The breach was allowing things from outside reality to bleed through. Dr. So-min was working with alien scientists through her communication link. "I'm getting reports from other human stations. This isn't isolated. Containment failures are happening throughout the edge territories." "How many?" Yoon asked. 17 stations are reporting major breaches. 43 more are showing instability. Park closed his eyes. The secret humanity had guarded for over 2 centuries was unraveling all at once. The careful balance they had maintained was collapsing. "Sir," a crew member called out, "we're getting reports of infected personnel on multiple levels. The whisper plague is spreading faster than predicted." "How many infected?" 37 confirmed. "But the number keeps growing." Park opened his eyes and looked at his crew. Good people who had volunteered to work at the edge of everything, knowing they might never see home again. Now they were paying the ultimate price for humanity's guardianship. "Commander," the alien scientist said from the screen, "we need a decision now. The manual coordination system is ready, but someone needs to enter the link chamber within the next 10 minutes. Park walked to the communication console and opened channels to all human edge stations. Faces appeared on screens around the command center. Other commanders facing the same impossible choice he was. "This is Park Dae-ho at Epsilon 7. I know you're all dealing with containment failures. I know you're all being asked to make the same sacrifice we are." The other commanders nodded grimly. They understood. For over 200 years, humans have stood guard against these things alone. Today, we're not alone anymore. The alien fleets are here. They're helping. They finally understand what we've been protecting them from. Commander Song Miran from Station Delta 12 spoke first. "My station is already lost. We're evacuating the survivors, but the entities here are contained for now by a manual link system." Lieutenant Park Dong-woo volunteered. He's holding them back, but the cost—" Her voice broke. Park understood. The young lieutenant was experiencing every moment of cosmic horror, while maintaining his sanity just enough to keep the containment stable. "It works," she continued. "The system works. But whoever enters the link chamber doesn't come out the same." "How many volunteers do we have across all stations?" Park asked. The numbers came in slowly. 43 humans had volunteered to enter link chambers throughout the edge territories. 43 people willing to sacrifice their sanity to keep the galaxy safe. "Sir," Minnie said, "the link chamber here is ready. All I need is 30 seconds to make the connection." Park looked at her. She was young, brilliant, and had her whole life ahead of her. But she was also the most qualified engineer on the station. "Minnie, do you understand what this will do to you?" I'll experience the entities directly. I'll know what they know, feel what they feel. I'll carry that knowledge for the rest of my life. But I'll also be able to keep them contained. And if you can't maintain the link, then everyone dies. Not just on this station. Everyone. Captain Taiwan stepped forward. Commander, let me do it. I'm military. I'm trained for situations like this. You're trained for combat against enemies you can shoot, Somin said. This is different. This requires someone who understands the technology. Through the windows, Park could see more alien ships arriving. The entire galaxy was mobilizing to help humanity in their desperate battle against things that should not exist. I'm going, Park announced. As commander, it's my responsibility. Sir. Several voices started to protest. No discussion. That's an order. But Minnie was already moving toward the exit. I'm sorry, Commander. But you're needed here. The aliens need someone they trust to coordinate with. I'm the most expendable person who can actually operate the system. She ran before anyone could stop her. Park started after her, but Taiwan grabbed his arm. Sir, she's right. You're the one who made contact with the aliens. They trust you. If you disappear into a link chamber, this whole alliance falls apart. On the screens, Park could see Minnie running through corridors where reality bent and twisted. She passed crew members who smiled with the terrifying peace of whisper plague infection. She dodged shadows that moved independently of any light source. She reached the link chamber as the station shook again. Through her helmet camera, they watched her connect herself to the quantum stabilizer network. Her scream echoed through every communication channel on the station. Then suddenly the shaking stopped. The alarms went quiet. The impossible geometries in the corridors snapped back to normal. Containment restored, reported the alien scientist. All sectors showing stable readings. But on the screen showing Minnie's vital signs, they could see the price. Her brain activity was unlike anything human medicine had ever recorded. She was experiencing reality and unreality simultaneously, holding both in perfect balance. Minnie, Park said softly into his communication device. Can you hear me? Her voice came back, but it was different. Older, sadder, like someone who had seen the end of everything and chosen to prevent it. I can hear you, Commander. I can hear everything now. The entities, the spaces between stars, the songs that reality sings to keep itself whole. I understand why humans became guardians. Someone has to hold the doors closed. Park looked around the command center at his remaining crew, at the alien faces on the screens, at the readings that showed stable containment for the first time in days. The price of guardianship had always been high. But now, for the first time, humanity was not paying it alone. 6 months after the crisis at Outpost Epsilon 7, the galaxy looked different. Commander Park Dae-ho stood at the observation deck of new Outpost Epsilon 7, watching construction ships from a dozen different species working together to complete the massive station. The new facility was beautiful, in a way the old one never was. Human engineering mixed with collective quantum technology, and crystal hegemony materials that could bend space itself. The station stretched across 3 dimensions and folded into 2 others, creating spaces that existed but followed new rules designed by minds working together. The final section will be completed next week, Ambassador Yoon Jae-sung said as he joined Park at the window. Then we'll have the most advanced containment facility in the galaxy. Park nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. How is Minnie? The same. She maintains perfect containment stability, but she's different. She speaks sometimes about things that haven't happened yet, and places that don't exist. The alien doctors say her mind is processing information from outside normal time. Through the station's new communication system, Park could hear Minnie's voice speaking to the network of quantum stabilizers. Her words were calm but carried knowledge that made even the most advanced alien scientists uncomfortable. She's not alone anymore, Yoon continued. The new link chamber design allows multiple volunteers to share the load. Right now we have beings from 7 different species helping to maintain the containment network. Park smiled slightly. That had been the most surprising development of all. After learning about humanity's secret burden, representatives from across the galaxy had volunteered to share it. Not because they had to, but because they understood that some responsibilities were too important for any one species to bear alone. Dr. Lee So-min approached them, carrying a datapad filled with reports from across the Edge territories. The weekly containment summary, she said, offering the device to Park. He read through the numbers. 63 stations now operated along the galaxy's edge, each one a joint facility staffed by multiple species. The old human-only outposts had been replaced by centers of cooperation, where beings who had once viewed each other with suspicion now worked side by side against common threats. "Any new breaches this week?" Park asked. 3 minor incidents, all contained within hours using the new distributed link system. No casualties, and the entities never achieved full manifestation. That was the real victory. The new technology, combining human experience with alien innovation, had made containment failures manageable rather than catastrophic. The entities still existed, still pressed against their barriers. But now those barriers were stronger and maintained by dozens of minds working in harmony. Captain Kim, Taewon entered the observation deck, wearing the new uniform of the Edge Fleet. The joint military force now included ships and crews from throughout the galaxy, all trained in the strange warfare required to fight things that existed outside normal reality. "Commander, we have a situation at Station Gamma 15, he reported. Long-range sensors detected something new approaching from the deep void. It's big and it's moving with purpose." Park felt the familiar tightness in his chest. Even with all their improvements, new threats still emerged from the darkness between stars. "How big?" "Larger than anything we've contained before. The advanced scouts describe it as a living nebula that thinks. Time to intercept? 36 hours. But sir, this one is different. It's not just wandering into our space. It's coming here deliberately, as if it knows we're waiting for it." Dr. So-min looked up from her own readings. That matches what Minnie has been saying. She mentioned something about the old one stirring and attention from deeper places. Park understood. Their success in containing the smaller entities had attracted notice from larger, older things. The galaxy's new guardians would face challenges that even centuries of human experience had not prepared them for. "Assemble a joint response fleet," Park ordered. "I want ships from every major species. This isn't just a human problem anymore." As Taewon left to coordinate the response, Park returned his attention to the construction outside. Alien workers in environmental suits moved alongside human engineers, their different biologies and thought processes combining to solve problems that neither could handle alone. "You know," Yoon said quietly, "when this all started, Earth Command was furious about your decision to contact the collective. They thought you had destroyed 2 centuries of careful secrecy. And now they're recommending you for the new position of Galactic Guardian Coordinator. The role would put you in charge of all edge operations across the galaxy." Park considered this. It would mean leaving the station that had been his home for years, traveling constantly between facilities, coordinating with species he was still learning to understand. But it would also mean ensuring that the burden humanity had carried alone for so long would never be carried alone again. "I'll think about it," he said. Through the station's communication system, Minnie's voice reached them again, but this time she was not speaking to the containment network. She was speaking directly to them. "Commander Park." Her voice carried the strange harmonics it had developed since her linking. "The approaching entity, I can sense its thoughts. It's curious about us, about what we've built here. Is it hostile? Not hostile, but not safe either. It wants to understand how we've managed to contain its smaller cousins. It's impressed by the cooperation between species." Park felt a chill. An entity vast enough to dwarf their previous containments was interested in their work. This could be an opportunity or a disaster. Can we communicate with it? "I think so. But Commander, if we do this, there's no hiding anymore. The entire galaxy will know about the things we guard against. Every species, every government, every individual will learn that reality is much more fragile than they believed." Park looked at the alien and human workers outside, at the mixed crews preparing for an unprecedented challenge, at the technology that represented the best efforts of dozens of civilizations. "Maybe it's time," he said. "Maybe the galaxy is ready to know the truth." Over the following days, beings from across the galaxy gathered at the edge stations. Scientists, philosophers, military leaders, and diplomats came to witness humanity's first attempt at communicating with an entity beyond all previous understanding. When the moment came, it was Minai who made contact. Her consciousness, already stretched across dimensions by her link to the containment network, reached out to touch the vast intelligence approaching their space. The conversation that followed lasted only minutes in normal time, but those who witnessed it said it felt like hours. The entity spoke in concepts rather than words. sharing knowledge about the true nature of reality and the delicate balance that kept existence stable. When it was over, the entity turned and departed into the deep void, but it left behind a gift, knowledge of how to strengthen the barriers between realities, making containment not just possible but permanent. It called us worthy, Minnie reported, her voice filled with wonder. It said that when its kind first noticed the young species of this galaxy, they expected them to destroy themselves fighting over resources and territory. Instead, we learned to work together to guard against greater threats. Park stood again at the observation window, but now he was looking not just at the construction outside, but at the future it represented, a galaxy where different species stood together against the darkness, a universe where the burden of guardianship was shared by all who were capable of bearing it. "Commander," Yoon said, "I have the official documents for your new position. The Galactic Council has approved the creation of the Guardian Corps, with joint facilities on every edgeworld and mixed crews from all member species." Park signed the documents, knowing that he was witnessing the end of one era and the beginning of another. Humanity's long, lonely watch at the edge of everything was over. Now they stood guard together, and the stars themselves seemed brighter for it. In the distance, new ships were arriving daily. Volunteers from species that had never worked together before, coming to take their turn standing watch against the dark between stars. The galaxy had learned that some responsibilities were too important to leave to others, and too difficult to face alone. The age of the lone guardian was ending. The age of the United Watch had begun,